Descript is a tool I recently signed up for. Canva, obviously, like probably a lot of people use Canva. ChatGPT, I'm on that every day. But I also love just when ideas come to me, being able to let them out and having options too. Like, oh, is this a blog post? Is this a quick video? Like, how do I want to get this out into the world? I can talk about criminal justice reform and I can talk about human potential through the lens of polymathy. And for me, these are both related. Like, I know it seems.
Hello, I'm Dustin PolyInnovator. Today I'm welcoming Angela C. Meyers on the PolyTools Creator Spotlight. Dr. Angela C. Meyers, mind you, who is an author, Polymathic content creator, and creator of multiple niches. So thank you for joining me on this show.
Thank you for having me.
You're a person who we connected with a long time ago on my other channel, a couple times already. We both share this polymathic niche, as in like we talk about polymaths a lot, and we both have a variety of different niches. So I'm kind of curious to get into that today with you. This is a show we talk about modern content creators on their journey. So the first thing I would ask is, what got you started?
I feel like I've always just been a thinker and a communicator. Even like in junior high school and high school, I did a lot of speech competitions. Then I went off to college, and one of my double majors was communication. I got a master's in communication. And then I got a doctorate in education. So I'm really just like a writer and a teacher and a communicator at heart. In fact, my name, Angela, means messenger, like heavenly messenger. But, even my name is like conveys this idea of like, I'm going to be someone who talks a lot.
On every level.
Yeah. So I've always just been a thinker and a talker and a communicator. And I really believe in the power of learning too. And so creating content is a way to explore my own learning journey, talking to other people and exploring ideas. It's also a way for me to share my learnings with other people, whether it's like the polymath stuff or criminal justice reform and what I've learned about the system here in the States, or just human potential more generally. Yeah, so I just feel this like moral and intellectual mission to express and to educate and hopefully awaken something in other people, and hope that it makes their lives better somehow. So that's pretty much why I got started. It's just I've always been someone who talks a lot and thinks a lot.
Well, I've talked to you a number of times over the years, definitely, and you and I kept going back and forth about different topics, especially when it came to the polymathic stuff. And I found you because you founded Polymath Place, and so that's something we can go into too. You have a successful Facebook group that's really interesting, and it's one of the few actually successful polymathic groups in general online. And you've also really focused a lot about free Sean and criminal justice reform as of late, but you've also been writing books too. So where do you want to take this?
Well, I would love to just share briefly too about some of my newest offerings that a lot of people aren't aware of. It's like a different form of content sharing, but I've got something I'm calling the Polymathic method, which is a menu of services I offer to businesses. Because I could really see like a long time ago that it doesn't matter if humanity has like all these strong polymaths or people with polymathic tendencies who could add great value to organizations, if the leaders and managers and HR gatekeepers don't understand like that polymaths it's a type of neurodivergence. And in the age of artificial intelligence, I think polymathic people are the most employable types working with AI tools. So that's just like one seed I want to plant, is for anyone who may be working in business or interested in what I offer. If someone goes to drangelamyers.com, they can learn about my teaching, my coaching and innovation work. I hope to have some assessments out soon. So this is a new way of communicating, getting in front of people in person, hopefully right in there with their businesses and helping them solve problems through the power of polymathic lenses.
Well, and I think you told me a little while back too, you've been working on some books too. So what are some of those topics?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I have 2 books that are like so close, I hope, to being out in the world. One is a children's book. It's called When I Grow Up, I Want to Be Lots of Things. And it's a book I wrote with my daughter, Lily. And that book, by the way, I had dreams about that book. It was like I had a dream one night. It was like, write this children's book and here's the basic concept. And then I remember like thinking to myself, where do I start it? Then I had a dream and it went Box Factory. So I have some weird like nighttime guidance I got with the children's book. And I'm so proud we're like at the very edge of like getting that out into the world any day now. And then I also wrote this other book that has been called Versatility, Human Versatility in the Age of Artificial Intelligence. The title may get changed depending on
I kind of like it.
publishing deal. Yeah. But yeah, that's the book that I've written for business leaders and HR professionals to really convince and walk them through how they can support polymathic talent inside their organizations in a really strategic way.
And one thing that it might be fun to get into with you on this particular show too is that we keep talking about polymaths, but people don't necessarily know what it is. So why don't you explain that a little bit? We could then talk about like polymathic content creation.
Yeah. So a polymath, the word itself means many learnings, and it's the opposite of being a narrow specialist. So we've lived in this age of specialization where everyone was fed this narrative of like, pick your thing, pick your swim lane, get in your cage of specialization, in your silo, put on the blinders, all of that messaging we got. And that worked for humanity for a time. But nowadays in 2025 and beyond, like if everyone's a specialist, it just doesn't work anymore. Like with AI tools and like rising entrepreneurship, because the job market, I don't know if you see this, but I think as jobs are disrupted more from AI, a lot of people are going to be forced into entrepreneurship. And so being a polymathic generalist who's good at learning is like a critical competency for the modern world now.
What I've seen a lot of content creators talk about is the digital renaissance and the generalist in that. And it's weird for me to take a back seat when people talking about polymathy because normally I'm on your end talking about it to a host.
Yeah, I know. I understand.
Well, and something you and I talked about in person last year too was talking about how you and I create content for multiple niches. And so organizing all that, managing all that, it's difficult and sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not. What are your thoughts when it comes to having these many different topics that you talk about?
Mm. Yeah, every once in a while I create something that aligns and somehow can spread to all three, but that's a rare occurrence. Like, criminal justice reform may have, like, my prison transparency project brand may have something I can co-post with the Help Free Sean brand,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe not have anything in common to post with Polymath's Place. So I've been exploring, though. Like, I've realized, for better or worse, I resisted thinking of myself as a brand, and then I hired someone to help with my branding, and I realized, like, that's the world we live in now, where like who you are is your brand.
That's what happened.
um
That's why I started
yeah.
PolyInnovator. Actually, is the same reasoning. It's like, and even with your now that you're focusing more on a personal brand, you can start posting to like your Twitter or LinkedIn from all three different brands, and
Yeah.
that's nice. You can consolidate it into one place. You still kind of have to have their own bubbles too, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That now I'm in this hybrid world where like I used to think of them as distinct brands. And then now I sort of think of it like, well, there's the me brand,
Mm-hmm.
and these are things I care about. And then I can weave, a post about criminal justice reform, or a blog entry or a video or whatever. Like I can talk about criminal justice reform and I can talk about human potential through the lens of polymathy. And for me, these are both related. Like I know it seems on the surface that like, why would these be related? But the major reason that I make content is because I want to reduce human suffering and enhance human thriving. Like that's been in my core for decades. Like I just wanted to use my life for good. And I feel like, yeah, criminal justice reform is my way of hopefully reducing human suffering by bringing attention to the things that aren't working in that system and how we could be more intelligent and humane. So that's about reducing human suffering. And then the polymathy stuff is really about enhancing human thriving, how we can use the power of polymathic intelligence to solve problems in innovative ways, because God knows we need innovation with the
Yeah.
meta crisis we've got. Like we've got to think differently and more holistically about how to intelligently and benevolently solve humanity's problems.
It is really
Yeah.
interesting how much we align on a lot of stuff. Like you chose more along the lines of like prison reform. I chose the modular degree because I was like education reform was more keen to me. But like the fact that we align on so many different things, I think is why we've been friends for so many years. It's been
Yeah.
about half a decade now almost.
Yeah. And of course I care about education and learning because I care about polymathy as well.
Mm-hmm.
So um, not just as like a type of intellectual freedom and authentic self-expression, and yeah, like that the polymathy is a thing we should care about because it helps us be better people, but it's also polymathy is about learning. My
Yeah.
doctorate's in education, and so I also give a lot of thought to like how can we rethink the educational system And I know with your modular degree, there's a parallel there. Like, do we need to stay stuck in old narratives about formal degree programs with six-figure debt? Like, do we need to keep doing that to ourselves, or can we rethink learning as something that's more modern and self-directed and lifelong and life-wide and maybe not so expensive and like debilitating financially for people to undergo? And
That was major reasons for me as well. And I think that with content, that was a lot of our reasonings for getting started. And you had that kind of shining light that you were going towards, that you were really excited about, and these different things you wanted to work on as a content creator. And that was your voice, as content creation. To my knowledge, you haven't had a whole lot of experience with audio, although your video podcast technically is also audio in a way. But you've done a ton of videos, and you've done a lot of writing as well, obviously your dissertation and books and stuff like that. So what, out of the three types, written, audio, and video, what do you enjoy to make the most?
I think it's hard to say because I like them all for different reasons.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I love to just like sink my teeth into like a juicy blog post or like a thought-provoking Facebook post that will sort of push people's thinking and, get some debate going. But I also just really like people. So there's something nice about hopping on a video and doing something interactive with a live human like this. Or just like when inspiration hits me, just quickly recording a selfie video because that's what I'm thinking in the moment and I want to address it. Like I love the freedom of being able to create intellectual content, both in a structured way, like having software that schedules posts and is thought through ahead of time. But I also love just when ideas come to me, being able to let them out and having options too. Like, oh, is this a blog post? Is this a quick video? Like, how do I want to get this out into the world? So, but I like the videos because it's just so easy. And I like being live with people for the interaction. How about you? Like, what's your favorite?
Well, it's interesting that you turned that around on me there. I definitely like doing all three, like you said. And when you said that, I definitely wanted to make a point where it's like, I think that you really should do all three. I talk about this a lot on this channel. It's how to be a content creator. It's kind of the main niche here. And I think that the modern content creator does all three. You do take more polymathic approach. There is a skill level issue where you have to do at least 100 reps before you even start getting someone good at any three of them. But once you start doing 100 reps of each, let alone like 300 reps of each, it becomes a lot easier to just transform a video like this into a blog post or a podcast, or take that same idea that you made for a video and then write about it separately. So I think that like once you get that experience, it becomes a lot easier. But I enjoy doing writing probably most.
Yeah, I enjoy that too. Just the world of ideas.
Yeah.
Even if I'm in the world of ideas by myself, I like that space.
It is really interesting when it talks about different types of content, and you've written a book. Do you think you would make like a documentary at some point, or how are you going to work on maybe doing audio in the future too, like going on a walk and just talking into your phone?
Yeah. By the way, I was featured in someone else's documentary film called The Polymath. Yeah. It was about this guy, this really cool guy, Derek, and he's like a genius up in Canada, and he just uses his polymathic intelligence for just
now you tell me I need to have him on the Polycast.
I know. Yeah, have Derek on. So there was a documentary film made about him, and I was like one of the people featured in that documentary as like an expert on polymaths. So that was fun. It wasn't my project, but I was invited to participate in it. I know there's a polymath festival, and sometimes there's like academic conferences I speak at and other, speaking gigs kind of thing. I don't know if that answered your question.
Not really, but it was interesting. I think the reason why I asked it is that there is this idea of long form solo content, and a documentary kind of seems like a movie in a way. That's long form video content. Mm-hmm. There's a guy in our space kind of named Dan Coe. He's kind of adjacent to what we do, but he's got a lot bigger than either one of us combined. And part of his growth actually came from doing like 2-hour long solo videos. And that's like insane. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Even if it was just like 90 minutes rather than 2 hours, it's still a long time to do like basically a podcast by yourself. And he talked about a lot about digitalization of this renaissance that we're in now, and these different digital generalists, digital polymaths, stuff like that. I figured you would do well since you like to talk with something like that.
Yeah. Well, also regarding you, I didn't really address like the audio only. So it's on my to-do list is to get the audio from my YouTube podcast on Spotify and iTunes. And I know there are some tools that can even help automate that process to some extent. So that's like something that's on my to-do list that I've taken too long to get around to.
I mean, really, all you got to do is get a tool like YouTube to MP3, download. You download all the MP3s for it. It would be better to use the raw files if you had them stored on your computer. But if there's Zoom, the YouTube's probably not that big of a deal. And then you just need a distribution tool. So like I use Transistor for mine. Technically speaking, you could use something like Spotify itself or even Podcastle, which is also a recording tool, but they do hosting for free. Those two are free. Just distribute it to Spotify and Apple through those tools.
Cool.
Pretty simple. But I just wanted to mention that just in case we get a chance to talk about it later.
Yeah, thank
But
you.
speaking of tools, what do you like to use for creation and repurposing? You were mentioning Google before the call, so I'm kind of curious what your tech stack is now.
Yeah, so I recently moved all my business functions over to Google Workspace so that there's integrated calendar, email, even now there's a video filming function that Google recently added. Of course, there's like AI note takers and stuff like that. So the Google, I'm definitely like on. I'm drinking the Google Kool-Aid. I'm.
Get a Google Pixel.
I know. I need to probably integrate that way. I also have people who help me. So some of the tools I'll mention, I may subscribe to, but I have someone else kind of help me use them. But like Opus Clip is an example of a tool we have used. Descript is a tool I recently signed up for. Canva, obviously, like probably a lot of people use Canva. ChatGPT, I'm on that every day. I use, YouTube and Facebook are obviously some tech tools. They're not exactly AI, although there are increasing number of like AI features I'm seeing even on old platforms like in Meta or Facebook. Like now there's like a group MC who will post a monthly like summary of activity in the group and stuff like that. So that's some of that's just automatically happening now. I've toyed around with Notion and what was it called? Oh, there was another one like Notion. I
Did
can't
I
think of.
get you into Obsidian at all?
You've shown me Obsidian, but I haven't really used it. Darn.
Craft?
No, it was Asana. Asana. So I used Asana for a while. I've dabbled in Notion. Lately, I've just been using the Google Tasks to try that. I recently also learned about Text Blaze, and I've started using that. That's where you can like for responses which are very typical in your email, you can create shortcuts where like the responses will just automatically populate in your email or wherever you would need
I
to
think
send
there's a
it.
Gmail extension for that, by the way.
Oh, is there? Okay, that's good to know too. Loom is another one I recently signed up for. That's where you could send like short 5-minute videos with screen capture, like responding to people. So instead of responding with an email, you could respond with like a screen share and a short video. That's
Mm.
pretty cool. I love Fathom, which is an AI tool that attends my meetings and records it and transcribes it and gives me notes and takeaways. Sometimes I'll take the transcript of a meeting and paste it into ChatGPT to like make sure I got the proper analysis and takeaways and task lists from the meeting and that sort of thing. So yeah, these aren't all necessarily content creation tools, but as a content creator, I'm using all of these tools a lot, like very, very frequently, and I love them.
No, that's good. I feel like a lot of times when people come on the show, they don't share enough. So I'm glad you went through the list. And just fun fact, I am trying to find a replacement for Canva, ironically,
Mm.
because I've used it, for a better half of a decade now. But there's a lot of issues when it comes to some of the UI and UX experience that I've gotten from it. They also haven't really innovated as much besides a couple like AI upscaling features, something like that. I want to have a lot more AI features and stuff. So yeah, we'll have to figure that out together. But this idea of using tools though allows us to really extend farther, and I think the automation aspect too, hiring VAs and hiring people to help you with editing, that's still a form of automation too. So that's wanted to make that
Hmm.
point.
Yeah, yeah, good point. And I still, I hire human beings to help me with my business, but I also am aspiring to understand and leverage and learn AI tools more and more as I go along. So even though I have like this AI stack that's helping make my work more efficient, my content creation more efficient and refined and just easier to pull together, I'm still learning too. Like I'm still looking for more. I attended a webinar today on agentic AI, so
Yeah,
creating agents
agents.
and creating your own GPTs and stuff like that. And I feel like that's really the next frontier for me to start to untangle is how to set up agents.
That was actually literally what I was about to go into next. I was like, agents is probably something you want to look up. So I'm glad that you have already started. Because some of the AI tools you mentioned were kind of, on the basic level, like ChatGPT and stuff like that. People use that. How you use it is definitely a skill level thing too. So you get better at using ChatGPT than the average person. You'll be able to use it a lot more effectively. But I just think that the people who can use multiple AIs in different ways and connect them together using like N8N or Make.com and stuff like that, which are Zapier alternatives.
Zapier, yeah.
But Zapier is kind of weak compared to N8N. So my point was though, like having the ability to jump between AIs and have your own agents running. That's one reason why I'm excited about Obsidian, because I want to be able to create my own AI through that system, which would be really insane.
Yeah, I've heard good things about make.com too, so I want to check that out. And yeah, even like I really like ChatGPT, even though it's basic. I think it's like
That's what I
a
use.
really good product, and it's got a lot of custom GPTs out there. And so just like even exploring ChatGPT fully, like there's just a lot that tool can do, and it's only going to get better. Like I know some people have judged these AI tools, like say a year ago someone tried ChatGPT and the GPT got something wrong. Well, personally, like I don't think that's a reason to just forever stop using ChatGPT,
Yeah.
because it's every 6 months it's like becoming
Three.
like such, or every 3 months, like it's just
Yeah.
exponentially improving itself. So let's be forgiving. This is a new tech, and let's not give up on it too easily, I would say, because I think it can make things so much better for us.
Before even getting to the next questions, let's touch on that a little bit, because AI is not something I talk about enough on this channel. And what's interesting is that there was a really weird time where people were jumping between ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Claude, DeepSeek, and essentially every 3 months, one of them would get better at the other things about something like coding or answering law questions or something like that. And it was really interesting seeing that kind of race happen in real time. And even something like Google's Notebook LM might be something you should look into next, because that was something that was really cool. And I created a AI generated podcast. I sent it to you when I made it, but I'm not sure if you had put it together like that was using that tool. And it's just interesting because you could basically just feed it a document and then talk to it.
I
And
know.
it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, you could feed it like there was an example, like if there's some expert in some field, you could like upload the book to your custom GPT and then ask the GPT to help you develop a strategy or answer questions based on the expertise of like this very long book. And so that means like we can have the world's best experts advising us in customized ways through these GPTs.
And something you said that was really prudent too, I wanted to go back on, is don't judge the tool based on what your experience was a while back. I was working with OpenScript for a long time, and some people would try it out in the beginning or even a year ago. They just celebrated a 2-year anniversary, so it's been around for a minute now. And they're trying to judge the tool based on their previous experience, but that tool was changing month to month, quite literally month to month. Even I got updates from people, and I still wasn't able to keep up with some of the changes they kept making. And back in the day, they were using ChatGPT to find the clips in a more unique way, not just like, oh, it's just finding it, that kind of thing. They had a very powerful model for it, better than all the other ones at least. Now they actually have like a real AI machine learning model on top of that to help find the clips too. And people don't seem to realize that there's a whole separate AI to it as well.
Yeah.
And that was, a change that happened. So if you tried it a year ago, 2 years ago, it's different now. And every tool is
Exactly.
like that, really.
Yeah, we're like the curve is getting to be less of a curve and more of a upright line.
Yeah.
Like tech changes happening fast now. Big changes happening real quick.
So you and I have been a creator for a very long time. Can you share what like a favorite story that's happened to you as a content creator, Angela?
I've had, I was thinking about like what have people told me that really like hit me.
Mm.
And I think it's happened a couple of times now where I could think of at least three people who basically told me that finding out about polymathy as a human phenomenon, that it's a thing, that they're
Mm-hmm.
not weird, they told me it saved their lives. Like I think sometimes people have felt really alone because polymath is not even a word most people know.
Yeah.
The concept is under discussed, but there's this like bubbling up awareness inside a lot of people that like I don't want to put on blinders. I don't want to live in a cage mentally.
Yeah.
I don't want to focus on only one thing for my whole career. And if I do that, oh, by the way, I could really be in jeopardy because things are getting automated. Like being multi capable is a kind of safety net you can create for yourself. But anyway, yeah, I've had a number of people over the years basically tell me that finding this concept, realizing they're normal, like realizing this is an okay way to be, like may have pulled them back from the brink of suicide kind of thing. So that has been like really impactful. I
Yeah.
did not expect that.
And as someone else who's in this space, I definitely see the talk about it and the fact that there's hardly any, and people keep anchoring towards multi-potentialite, which you and I both have talked extensively about how we don't necessarily like that word compared to polymath. It's not as good. It's one of those things where at least the conversation was happening. Something you alluded to earlier, and the Octopus movement talked about this a lot, where like a lot of neurodivergent people like to anchor towards these kind of words too. And even if I think you could be polymathic without being neurodivergent, but there's definitely a big relation there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's a type of intellectual diversity to like be really good at learning. Like it's not a that something's wrong with you. It's
Yeah.
just a type of diversity. And then the concept itself is all about the diversity that can exist inside one person. That like we're whole universes in a way, intellectually, emotionally, physically. Like I recently, and this is just like a quick tangent, but I recently learned about that the vast majority of our makeup is of cells and mitochondria and viruses and funguses and like our gut microbiome, that there's like so much of who we are, what
Yeah.
we are, that's actually not us. It's like other DNA. So like just recognizing like that we're whole universes ourselves, and polymathy is sort of like how that multiplicity of what we are can show up in the world, right? In
Yeah.
our vocations and avocations. So
And how we market ourselves to the other people and not putting ourselves in just one box.
yeah, not like settling for an identity you inherited, but really like exploring the fullness of who you are, like being all in at life and letting yourself change. Like
Mhm.
not like there may be parts of our identity that are consistent throughout the lifespan, but there may also be like versions of ourselves that come and go that we try on and then we let go of. And like that's okay. Like that's normal. That's how we figure out what version of existence is the best for us, that we like the most.
Mm.
So polymathy is also just about not just learning, but like personal expression and authenticity and evolution, you know?
There was actually a quote I shared today on Instagram, and I thought it was really fitting here. And it's like, we are like books. Most people only see our cover. The minority read only the introduction. Many people believe the critics. Few will know our content. Emile Zola. And I thought that was interesting. And that content that is of ourselves, our chapters in our book, those are also different areas of interest that we have. And so one chapter might be about polymathy, one chapter might be about prison reform, and one chapter might be about parenthood. And having all these different chapters, not everyone's going to know those chapters of you. And so how do you share that with the world effectively? Do you share it? That kind of thing. All questions we got to ask.
Yeah. And I think, it's a bizarre world, but I personally think that it doesn't hurt to have some of your mind, some of what you are captured on the internet,
Mhm.
right? Because, like, if you want to be a part of the global conversation, if you want to be a part of what AI can make sense of, like, if you have an intellectual fingerprint on the internet, then you get to be part of that, like, global sense making that AI can synthesize and do for us. But the way you do that is by putting content out in the world, right? And if you can figure out as a content creator how to repurpose, then you're able to reach more people, because some people are going to want like a short video and some people are going to want some long form podcast and some are going to want a blog essay and some are going to want to buy a book on Amazon and have it shipped to, and some people are going to want to download it on their Kindle. And like, so however you can figure out how to make your content reachable depending on the preferences of people out in the world, it's just more efficient and more strategic, and it lets your ideas travel further
Mm.
while honoring our limited time and energy as humans. Yeah, so it's just getting the content out there in different ways, I think, is a good thing. And so many tools, like New Link is another tool that I use. I forgot to mention that automates social media posts. So much more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
makes more sense with our limited energy and time to use these tools.
Well, especially for polymathic in nature too. You mentioned content repurposing and kind of what that means to you there, which is great. And what's really interesting, I think that might be a fun topic for you and I to go on to here, is this idea of being a polymathic content creator. Do you separate these different niches? Do you separate it through content? Like I've seen some creators, they'll like do a podcast about a separate topic. They wanted to talk about something, so they made a podcast to talk about it rather than adding it to their channel. Or they'll write a blog post about something. Like their blog is different, their YouTube's different, and their podcast is different. And some creators will do the same topic in all three. And then some creators might, like people like us, might even do kind of a bit of both, where we have one niche that's all three, and then one niche is two, and then one niche that's another one. It's interesting. Thoughts?
Yeah, I like the hybrid model where like some things are really planned out and intentional, and like other things are more emergent and like allows for flexibility and creativity. Because I will say, if the only content I ever made was like developed in tandem with an AI tool and then automated with an AI, like I begin to feel a little bit separate from the content. And I love my content. I love ideas. So, but I want to have a baseline of like, I'm connecting, I have a strategy, I'm automating. But yeah, I like this hybrid model where I think of myself as like someone who has a strategy and a plan in place and it's automated. But I also want that creative freedom where like, if I get an idea, I'll just pop on video and film it, or I'll just whip up a blog post and get it out there that way. But yeah, even just somehow like the logic of like, okay, I have an idea. What's the best platform?
Mm-hmm.
What's the best medium? What's the best format for the message? Like that's something I have to think through now. Like, is this better as a short thing, a long thing? Which social media platforms? Like, is this something written? Is this video? Is this audio? And
Or
I
all
don't have
three.
any perfect, or all of them. Yeah. Or yeah, exactly. So
And I wasn't even talking about AI or automation too. I was talking about generically like what niches are what content types and stuff like that. Like this brand, PolyTools, it's a video channel. I turned these interviews into audio as well. And then I have a newsletter. So I have all three for this one niche. But then like my travel niche, for example, that I just started this past year or so. So I got that travel backpack last year. I just love those kind of products. I even have that same brand came out with a sling, and I got one of those slings too from that backpack that I got. And I now have a matching set. And these kind of products just really interest me. And as much as I would like to love to make videos about it, I'm not going to make a whole channel just for that. I might put a couple videos up on my PolyInnovator channel, but right now, really all I do is write about that niche. And that was just because I want to have fun with that topic. And then there's other niches that might be less. And so same for you. Like some of your niches might just be TikTok. Some of them might be TikTok and YouTube. Maybe you start a podcast about prison reform or something like that. You never know what's going to happen next too. And maybe that would be a great way for you to expand for the next year or so.
yeah, this is like it's a mix of like planned and emergent.
Yeah.
This I don't have like the perfect formula for greatest success and impact. I'm just experimenting with what works for me. And yeah, it's sometimes it's a little hard to keep up with everything too.
Yeah.
Like
I'm so behind.
there's new platforms popping up. Like I still haven't really gotten that much on Threads or Blue Sky and like some of these other ones because I'm like, gosh, I already got so many accounts. How many more can I take on?
I just automate it at this point. Like I don't touch Blue Sky hardly ever. I just send my tweets out to there and call it a day.
And there's Discord and there's
Yeah, you gotta come on my
Reddit.
Discord, by the way.
Yes, I have Discord. I just don't check it. Like oh God, my attention span. I'm a little worried about the human attention span in this world because I'm switching constantly between like topic areas or domains or brands and platforms and strategy. Like I'm slicing and dicing, and oh gosh, my brain is struggling to keep up with it all, which is why AI is great because it can sort of help organize and keep track. But it is a lot, like
Yeah.
keeping up with like all the different ways of communicating. And then that's only in the content creation. Of course, part of how I get ideas for content creation is by looking at other people's content, like and then thinking about it. And then I go, well, this is a point I'd want to make. And then I'm like, oh, let me put a video together or something. So there's just so much content in the world today, not just to make as a creator, but also to absorb. And I never have enough time in the
Yeah.
day to get it all.
And keep in mind, you and I are at a different level compared to a lot of other people. You and I are making a lot of content, a lot of different niches, a lot of different formats too. And yet I don't think either one of us is anywhere close to doing enough. And that's the thing where it's like, I hate saying that because you and I put out a ton of stuff, but the idea is that like there's going to be way more people, especially as more countries around the world get more and more modern, way more people creating content, and AI now is definitely going to take up like 80% of the internet at some point too with content. So I already see a ton of reels, for example, on Instagram from AI generation. And it's just going to be really interesting how to compete with all that. Is it going to be AI? Is it going to be human generated? That kind of thing. And I don't really have a stance on that right now, but I'm just saying like we have a lot of voices we need to get out in the world, like Polymathy, for example. And how do we compete in that case of attention?
Can I give a little theory on this? Okay. So if we're in a world now where content, like we're just saturated with content, like there, none of us can keep up with all the books, podcasts, posts, like all the things we want to take in. We just don't have enough time and energy. Plus, we got real lives. So what do we do? What makes content most valuable when you're just saturated with attention grabbers? And I personally think this is why polymathy is so relevant, is because original content, new thinking, the
Mm-hmm.
things that haven't been said before, the things that are stretching the edges of what we're theorizing and thinking and exploring, like that is what is going to grab people's attention, something new and fresh. And who are the best innovators? Well, it's people got lots of tools in their toolkit,
Mm-hmm.
people who can think at the intersection of multiple disciplines, who can think holistically. So polymathic content creators, I think, are well positioned for the new world because they're going to be the ones creating new knowledge,
Yeah.
new innovative insight. And that's the kind of content that's going to be most valuable.
And one thing that going back to Obsidian again, I think that being able to cut out some of the fats when it comes to like images and feeds, because there's like a, for example, new plugin I want to play with called RSS Dashboard, where you can take all the RSS feeds of the websites you like to read and consolidate it into one place. And so instead of having to scroll through medium.com, well, I guess medium's not really a good example, scrolling through PolyInnovator.space or Dr. Angela Meyers, right? These different websites that you might want to read the blog post coming from. You don't necessarily want to go to the website every single day. You can actually see that feed in your home base and then save it. And then when you are ready to read it, you can retrieve it quickly. And then also use AI to help understand it too, built into it. I think that's going to be the way to go about it because there's going to be other tools like Center.ai and even Cortex by Danco that help people like us consume more so that way we can create more.
Yeah, I love that idea of like being the curator of your own incoming content because that's one of the dangers and risks. By the way, can I just mention? I was reflecting on this yesterday. I love AI. I think it can do so much good for our world, but there are downsides to like screens. Like, is it like and tech? One of my favorite books ever is called Four Arguments for the Elimination of Television. And so and basically the bottom line of that book is like when you're sitting in front of a screen and you're not controlling the content in any way, you're just a passive receiver, that it's basically a tool for mind manipulation. Like, it impacts the way we think. It tries to sell us on some, tries to get us to spend our money and,
That's why I said cut out the
Geico or
fluff.
whatever. So this concept of like curating your content more intentionally and thoughtfully so that you're not completely in control of all the content you're absorbing, but you're definitely directing it when there's overload and mind manipulation as part of the world and misinformation, then figuring out the sources you trust, the content you want to program your mind space, making those decisions so that you can own your own mental sovereignty a little bit more is really smart. So I love that tool you mentioned where you can set up the alerts to get funneled the content that matters the most to you and put your attention there.
This is a shameless plug. Just like this is kind of the new evolution of what my modern modular degree is. I couldn't build a tool, so I'm trying to build it in Obsidian using plugins and stuff like that. But I'll get back to you when I get more progress on that. Because there's interesting plugins that can really make things change. And we keep talking about AI and people, and it's definitely not AI that's going to be taking jobs. It's people using AI that's going to be taking jobs. And there are going to be plenty of jobs that are going to be obsolete by AI. Like a lot of coding jobs are going to go out the way because you can just vibe code it now and use the AI tool to make websites super quickly. That's great. But there's still going to be the idea of design and the human ingenuity that you need for these tools.
Yeah, definitely. People who can learn AI and learn to ask the right questions, learn to bring many different perspectives, learn how they learn best so they can keep upgrading their mental model, like so that your learning doesn't get stuck at one point in time, that you can like unlearn and relearn and keep updating yourself mentally, like software gets updated on computers. That's kind of how I think of it. That's like such an important competency for the world we live in now.
Agreed. Really, I think we'll keep going on tangents, but I got one more question here for you. What do you have coming down the line that you're looking most forward to?
And I sort of alluded to some of this in the beginning, but I'm really excited to get my children's book out there.
Yeah.
I think it'll be out real soon. When I grow up, I want to be lots of things. The versatility book, I hope, is inching closer to publishing. The Polymathic method as a business offer for organizations who are looking for holistic, innovative solutions to their business challenges. I've got an online evergreen course that's been put together now, the Polymath Unleashed. I've got a new blog. I'm starting to write a lot of blogs on drangelamyers.com. So yeah, it feels like a lot of, and I'm also working on a couple of assessment tools. So we'll see how quickly I can get those ready for use, but those are underway. So I'm just excited that, I've sort of shifted from a content creator, a writer, a thinker to someone with practical tools for individuals and businesses. I'm also a certified coach and available to coach individuals as well, whether in business or for personal reasons. So yeah, I'm really excited about like becoming a real businesswoman finally, I hope.
I think you've always been one, but also just to point out, above her left shoulder is a book called In Pursuit of Polymaths, which is something, right there. Just wanted to give that a shout out as well.
Yeah, that's my doctoral dissertation. Oh, I'm going to be releasing this as a second edition pretty soon, because when I self-published this on Amazon, I used 8.5 by 11. And I realized I want to make it a more normal book size, and like I want to change my name on the cover.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So be on the lookout for a second edition of that. And hopefully my versatility book, the children's book, When I Grow Up, I Want to Be Lots of Things. Check out drangelamyers.com for my consulting.
Don't worry, I'll give you time. I'll give you a moment to ask. That's actually what I'm going to ask next. Where can people find you online? I make sure you have a call to action. Don't worry.
Awesome.
As in, like, where can people find you online?
Oh, are you asking me that now? Yeah. Okay. I was like, are you asking it now, or are you letting me know you're going to ask me later? Okay. Well, definitely check out Dr. Angela Meyers. That's DrAngelaMeyers, the long spelling of Myers and the short abbreviation of doctor. So drangelaMyers.com. If you click about my work, you'll see like a link where you can click on my consulting and coaching and learn more about the Polymathic method. I'm so excited to partner with businesses because I think that's like such an important gateway. Like if we can get business leaders and HR professionals to understand like the polymathic talent is like the new wave of the future, partnering with AI tools, and that they need different support and strategies to really unleash their talent fully compared to narrow specialists. So it's a totally different way of thinking as a people manager and as a business executive. So getting that right, getting the job match right, like there's a lot of important stuff to learn in this new world about what sorts of employees are going to make the most sense working with AI.
Well, and I got links down below for you as well, so people can check out your socials and websites. And then anything else you wanted to leave with the audience today, or
about content creation or polymathy?
Whatever comes to your mind.
I encourage people to, figure out what sort of content you want to get. What do you want to be remembered for? What do you want to be remembered by? Like in this age, all of us can be content creators, right? And it's a way of capturing your unique onlyness on the internet. So it could be part of the collective sense making. And so it's a way to get your essence out there, captured in text or video. So I think it's an important time to like let yourself be seen. It seems like the world of the future is where everyone may have a personal brand and social medias and be content creators. Yeah, like it's the wave of the future. So I just want to encourage anyone listening to this to figure out what you want to put out into the world and then have fun doing it, exploring that.
I love that. And once again, this is Dustin PolyInnovator and Dr. Angela Meyers on the PolyTools Creator Spotlight. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you on both shows now.
Yes.